Okay, looks like it's working. Can you hear me? So, hey Nicholas, can you hear me? Okay, thanks. So, this session is going to be about translating your QML app. So, it should be generic enough to work with any QML applications. But of course, we'll focus on the Ubuntu SDK. And we are going to see how to go from a basic app which is not enabled for translation and work our way up to something can be shipped in the store with translations. So first, translations on with the Ubuntu SDK. There is the I18N API, which is basically get text. If you have already translated a Python app, it's pretty much the same thing. So get text takes your user visible strings and just build them into a translation template, which then is available to translators, and they can do the job and bring you back some translated files. So for this session, we're going to use a sample application, which has been built just for that. It's a fake application, so I'm going to share my screen to try to do that. Let me see. Screen share. It's loading currently. Okay, it's working. So is the font, if I open a project in the SDK, is the font big enough for you to see? I'm going to enlarge that a bit. Okay, that should be good. So first, we are going to grab the code for this sample application, and we're going to translate it. So it's quite easy. You don't have to grab the code right now, but if you don't want to open the SDK, you can just go to, how can I enlarge that? Oh. Okay, so there is a Launchpad project called How Many Apples, which is the name of the app. Here you go. Okay, someone is suggesting to share the window and not the desktop, so I'm going to try that. Doesn't seem to work. Why do I do that? Okay, let's try again. The Hangout doesn't see the SDK window. Well, I'm just going to share the entire screen. Okay. So, should be better now. Okay, so we are going to grab the code for this app. So it's Bazaar branch LP baby T3. The name of the app is How Many Apples. So let's grab that. I'm going to paste the command here. So I go to this new folder, and I'm going to open it in the SDK with Ubuntu SDK dot. Of course, it's already open in the background, just for you to see. So we are going to look at main.qml, which is the main file of this application. And we are going to run the app just to get a sense of what it's about. Control R. So this app is called How Many Apples, and it allows you to pick an apple-based meal, and it will give you the amount of apples you need for that and how much it will cost. You can add guests, and it will update the number of apples. Don't use that for cooking. It's basically made up. But we are going to use this to show how to translate an application. So this is the code of our app. So here is the page title. And to enable this string for translation, we are going to use the i18n API. It's very simple. i18n.tr for translate. And that's it. This string, after a few things we will see later, will be available for translators. So let's do that a few more times. Pick a meal. Apple pie. Delicious apple biscuits. Okay. Let's keep doing that. You are making something for something guests. Okay, you will need a set number of apples for this recipe. It will cost you some amount. The guest. And remove the guest. So now if we run the app again, nothing has changed, of course, but the API is here and the app runs, so there's no typo or mistake while doing this. And that's the basics. That's what you need to do to enable your app for translation. So what happens now is when you build your application, for example, if I click the build button, let's see, is there something in the application output? Yes, in the compile output. As you can see, he's trying to build translations, but we don't have translations yet. Just we have just enabled translations. But a few things have been added to our project. So let me find the right one. Yep. Here. Now we have a PO folder. In this PO folder, there is a pod file. This pod file is our translation template. So if I open it in gedit, you can see all the strings we have marked with the I18N API. There is a line number and what's called the message ID, which is the content of the string. This file is what is a file that's going to be presented to translators. For example, if you use Launchpad to host your project, you can enable translations. There is a link to configure your Launchpad project. So it's really quick to do. Translators will be presented with an easy interface to work on your app and to add translated strings for each of the string in the pod file. So this pod file has been built automatically by the SDK when you have built your app. It will also be built when you create the package, the click package that you will publish after. Also, make sure you have fully updated your SDK, because we had to make, well, the SDK team had to make a lot of changes for fixing translations that were a bit broken. Translation building. So make sure you update your SDK. By the way, I'm running Ubuntu 15.04, fully updated, and that should work without issues. One thing to note is that if you are trying to enable an old app for translations, you will need to rebase your app on the new QML template. The QML template is when you create a new project and you select a template. So to do that, I will give you a link at the end of this session with all the steps to update your project template. It's not a fun thing to do. Well, it takes 5 minutes, but basically you have to create a new project named exactly like the old one and move all your files, including your Bazaar files if you are using Bazaar. So next, we are going to talk about translators and learn how we can be nice to them. Is this the right file? No, it's failed. I have two SDK open. So what do I mean by being nice to translators? Is that we need to give them context, because when they translate your app, most of the time they won't run your app, they won't look at the code, so they won't understand the context of every strings. For example, these strings, you are making something for something guest. It doesn't really make sense for a translator. So we're going to add a comment for translators that will appear in the translation interface. So to do that, just add a comment above the string you are translating, starting with translators. So here, translators, one refers to the amount of, sorry, I'm reading backwards. In any case, refers to the meal, two refers to the amount of guests. This way, it's much easier. Let's see, if I save and rebuild, I look at my pod file, my translation template, and I can see here that my comment has been added. And it will also appear in, for example, in Launchpad translation interface, if you are using Launchpad. One thing to note is that translator commands are very common in a lot of code, in a lot of projects. But for projects built with the SDK, you have to start your command with translators. That's the only way for the command to be picked up by the build system. So after being nice to translators, we're going to be nice to a lot of other languages by dealing correctly with plural forms. The idea is that in English or in French, for example, when you want to put something to the plural form, you just need to add an S most of the time. So it's quite easy to do in code. Like if you have several apples, you will add an S to the string. But there are a lot of languages that have various plural forms. For example, Arabic has 6 different plural forms, if it's 2 or 3 or 10. Russian have 3 plural forms. So we're going to take this string, which is can be put to the plural form. Of course, you are making this meal for a certain amount of guests, so it could be guests plural. So to do that, we just update string with the English plural form. So you are making some meal for multiple guests. Then we add the variable that will determine if we are changing to the plural form. So here it's guests. Oh, by the way, arg recipe and arg guests are just standard QML way of saying that recipe refers to 1 here and guests refers to 2 here. And that the variable will be used at this point. So now, if I rebuild and look at my pod file, something has changed. So we have message ID and message ID plural. And in the translation UI, depending on their languages, translators will have a certain number of input fields. For example, Arabic will have 6 different input fields. So that's it for plurals. Let's do it here again. You will need a certain amount of apples for this recipe. Plural and variable that will determine which form we are using. Okay. Okay, so let's remove the templates and it's not here. Okay, let's do it again. Okay, maybe I've done something wrong. Oh, here it is. I missed it. Okay. So with basic strings and plurals, you are set up for pretty much any basic application. As you can see, it's very easy to do, very fast. Of course, this is a very simple application, but you get the idea. So next, we are going to use another translation feature. So here we have this string. This will cost you a certain amount of money. What we're going to do is that we're going to use a Qt feature, a Qt locale feature, which is powering QML, of course. And we're going to use the local currency. That will mean that if I use this app in French, I will have the euro sign. If my localization is English US, I will have the dollar sign, for example. So here is the arg we need to change. It's the price that will be displayed. So we need to put number that will in QML there is a specific number type. So we are casting our price variable to number, and then we use to local currency string. And here we can specify the locale. The locale is the language the user is running the interface. But here we are not going to specify a locale. We are just going to request the locale of the system. Okay. Okay. So let's run our app again, and here the euro sign, because I'm using not a full French locale, but French for numbers and dates and stuff like that. And that's the feature I wanted to show you. What next? We're going to go to Launchpad and see our translations. Oh no, let's do something even better. let's grab the full translated source code. Okay. And we are going to look at a few things in it. Okay. It in the SDK. So we have our translated strings with a few more translator commands. So this should be familiar to you now. If I run the app, it looks the same. Let's have a look at our trunk. So that PO folder I talked to you about earlier, where the translation template is stored, contains new files. That's because when translations happen on Launchpad, they are automatically put back into your branch. This is very useful, but that means that when you have your app opened for translations on Launchpad, make sure you pull regularly new translations, because they happen quite often and you want to ship them. So with this translations file, let's have a look at one. So here is the French translation. So you have that looks a lot like your pod file. It's the same file, but with message strings added. So it's all translations. Here we also have our plural translations. Look at the IRC. Is there any questions? Okay, questions. Okay, I'll answer all the questions at the end of the sessions, if you don't mind. Okay, so let's build our click package and see what happens to these PO files. So I need to add a kit. If you don't know what kits are, there are good tutorials on the developer website. But basically, it's the devices targets. So you build your app for a specific device. So now I can build a click package, build and validate click package, and it worked. So I'm going to retrieve this package here. And not sure where the package is, but that's fine. What I wanted to show you is the MO folder. Yep, it's here. So the MO folder is what is going to be shipped into your click package and on the system where it's installed. So that MO folder contains share, locale. Here we have app ID, language, and language. Just disregard these ones. It's an old bad. Sorry, there was a bug in the translation template before, so you should only have these. So CA, which is Catalan, FR, which is French, and every other translation you have in the project. And here is an MO file. So MO files are the same thing as PO files, but they are binaries. I can just open it here. They are compiled, and when your app is run on a user's device, your MO file is loaded at runtime, and the right MO file is loaded depending on the user locale. So if for some reason you are building your click package manually or doing things outside the SDK, make sure you are shipping this share locale folder, because this is what actually translates your app on the user's device. So now let's go on Launchpad. Have a look. Okay. So this is the Launchpad project, and what I wanted to show you is translations page. So when you have uploaded your app to Launchpad, you set up your translation with the help of this link I gave before. And depending on the translator language, he has access to one or multiple languages. So here I'm not logged in, so I can see everything in. Let's look at the French page. So I have English sentences. Let's zoom a little. The translation, if I was logged in, it would be an input field. And here is a translator command. And then the translator can save his translations. And then they are pushed back to the project. Here you can see this commit named Launchpad Automatic Translations Update. Let's see what it's doing. It's updating the PO files. For example, here I've changed some lines. Some line numbers have changed because of the changes in the file, in the app. So it means that all the translation templates have been updated as well. So if you are not building your app in the SDK, for example, if you are building it from the command line, make sure you also update your translation template. Also, if you are interested in the plural form, there is a very handy link to learn about that. And I think we are pretty much done. So let's look at questions. So how to work with multiple getText domain within one app. So there is, let's have a look at the APA. Okay. Sorry about that. The Gateway website has been changing today, quite unfortunately, and Okay, so here it works. It's a new website, so bear with me. I'm looking for the right page. Okay, it's not here. Okay. That's quite unfortunate. Okay, with components. And it's not here anymore. So to answer this question, I wanted to show you the API documentation, but it has disappeared. So I'll get back to that a bit later. Next question. I've seen other translation API, and all this was a string in the API call is more like an identifier. Well, here the identifier is I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Okay. So, yes, the API call is more like an identifier. Is that the recommended way of doing this? Well, it's the way we have documented it. I'm not an SDK expert, but I would assume that yes, it's the recommended way. And get text, how do you use it from QML? I actually don't know. How to distribute build translation inside a click package so that they work? Well, it's what we have seen is that you have to ship MO files, which are built when you are actually building the click package from pure files present in the source. So at runtime, the stuff that runs the application sets some local directory to the root of the application click package. Yes, that's it. Any documentation as to what technically happened there? I don't know, but we can have a look at the CMake file, I guess. Yes, because when you are building even a project without CMake at first, it will build a CMake environment to build translations. So I'm going to share my screen again. So here is a make file. And I guess I have a link to that. Here it is. So I'm pasting on IRC a link to the make file. Okay, so if your application doesn't build with CMake, as I said, it's just fine. If you're using the updated app template, by the way, which is explained here. Okay, let me find the right tutorial. So at the end of this tutorial, you have all the steps to update your SDK template. So I'm trying to see. Okay. And I can stop sharing my screen. Do you have any more questions? I'm sorry for not being able to answer some of them, but actually the point of this session and tutorial was how I got from almost knowing nothing about localization and getting it to work and very easily, and actually discovering the API and presenting my findings. Okay, no more questions apparently. I guess we can wrap up. Okay, thanks all. Bye.